Hi everyone, my name is Krista Anderson. Today I will be presenting a tool which can assist in identifying risks, and this tool is the Delphi Technique. According to the PMBOK guide, project risk management includes the processes of planning, identifying, analyzing, responding to, and controlling risk on a project. Risk management is an important component of the project planning process because risks have the potential to affect project deliverables. Project risk is defined as uncertain events or conditions that may occur, and they have either a positive or negative effect on a project's objectives. Risks that have a negative impact on a project are known as threats, and strategies for dealing with threats include avoiding, transferring, mitigating, or accepting the threats. Risks that have a positive impact to a project are known as opportunities, and they should be exploited, enhanced, shared, or accepted. A critical facet of project risk management is identifying risks and documenting their characteristics. Identifying risks allows the project team to be proactive, anticipating events that may occur. There are several tools and techniques a project team can utilize to identify project risks, and today we are going to review one such tool, the Delphi Technique. For this presentation on Delphi Technique, the expected learning goals include an understanding of the definition of Delphi Technique, as well as gain knowledge in the history of the risk identification tool. Other learning objectives include a basic understanding of the characteristics of Delphi Technique, information on when and how to use the tool, as well as its advantages and disadvantages. Delphi Technique is defined by the PMBOK guide as an information gathering technique used as a way to reach consensus among experts on any given subject. A unique factor of Delphi Technique is that the experts participate anonymously. According to Pritchard, experts are not always readily available to provide risk identification information to the project team during the data gathering process. Pritchard further details that Delphi Technique addresses this situation by providing an alternate means of information gathering, and that alternate means doesn't pressure the experts. This is completed through a facilitator and the use of a questionnaire that solicits information from experts regarding crucial project points. The responses provided by the experts to the questionnaire are summarized and then recirculated to the experts for further comments. A few rounds of this process are completed in order to reach consensus. The circulation of expert feedback helps to reduce bias in the data, and it keeps any one expert from having undue influence on the outcome. This process also decreases the range of the answers, and the group will converge towards what is considered the correct answer. The information gathering rounds are concluded after a predefined stop criterion, such as the number of rounds or the stability of the results. The name of this risk identification tool, Delphi Technique, is derived from the oracle at Delphi. According to Greek mythology, the god Apollo was also known as the oracle, and Apollo foretold the future through a priestess. When posed a question, the priestess channeled the knowledge from the gods, and an interpreter cataloged and translated that information. According to Pritchard, in today's modern era, the project manager takes on the role of the interpreter, translating the insights of the experts. The highest quality of expert information possible is gained through the repeated cycle of question, response, and reiteration, otherwise known as Delphi Technique. At the beginning of the Cold War, a method was needed to forecast the impact of technology on warfare. Delphi Technique was developed in the 1950s to create a report for the U.S. Army Air Corps, which included expert consensus. Delphi Technique has been used in projects ever since due to its sound and structured practice for drawing insights from experts who may not otherwise contribute to the risk identification processes. When applying the Delphi Technique, following the process is essential and relatively simple. The technique relies heavily on the ability of the facilitator to generate the questions to ask the experts and to compile the expert feedback that is received. A characteristic of the Delphi Technique includes allowing the participants to focus on the risk at hand, which separates the Delphi Technique from other risk information gathering techniques. This allows for the structured flow of information, presenting the facilitator with regular feedback while maintaining the anonymity of the experts participating. Structured information flow is achieved by the facilitator. The facilitator processes the information and filters out irrelevant content, which helps to avoid the negative effects of panel discussions. Regular feedback is important because it allows participants to update their information frequently, so no individual conforms too much to group ideals. This ensures a wide range of risk identification feedback. Anonymity for the experts allows experts to feel comfortable providing honest feedback, and it frees participants from personal biases. This encourages open critique, leading to the best possible answers. The first step in applying Delphi Technique includes identifying experts and ensuring their participation. The experts do not have to possess experience doing the work or dealing with the risks under consideration, but they should be people who are familiar with the organization, the customer, and their mutual concerns. The second step is creating the Delphi instrument or the questionnaire. The questions should be specific enough to elicit information that is valuable, but general enough to allow for creative interpretation. The third step is to have the experts respond to the questionnaire and gather their responses. This is typically done remotely to allow the experts time to respond without influencing their responses. The fourth step involves reviewing and restating the expert feedback. The goal of this step is to identify common areas, issues, and concerns. The fifth step is to repeat steps 3 and 4 until the predefined stop criterion has been met. Process cycles are considered the minimum task to allow for thoughtful responses, thorough review, and appropriate reassessment. The sixth and final step in applying Delphi Technique is to apply the data. The facilitator issues the final version of expert feedback while explaining how, when, and where it will be applied. This step is very important as it allows the experts to observe how their contributions will serve the risk identification needs of the project. While the Delphi technique has broad utility due to the use of the skills and insights of experts, there are scenarios in which it is more appropriate. One such scenario includes projects where cost and schedule constraints make it difficult to facilitate face-to-face meetings. Gathering information from participants remotely ensures that the project cost and schedule do not inhibit progress. Remote information gathering also allows for the identity of participants to remain anonymous. For certain projects, this may be a vital requirement. Delphi Technique is particularly useful in facilitating issue exploration among a diverse group of participants. It allows all participants to provide input and compare feedback. The comparison of feedback is an important facet of Delphi Technique that can also help a group move towards consensus. Having a group reach consensus is important for issues that do not initially have a clear resolution. Delphi Technique is very beneficial for situations in which precise analytical techniques cannot be used. One such scenario involves electrical supply companies and their responses to customers that cannot pay their bill. This case study examines the use of Delphi Technique by the Sheffield Business School when assessing the Electricity Consumers Committee's Chairman's Group, or ECCCG, and their problem of self-disconnection. This issue arose because electrical companies were using controversial methods and would disconnect the electrical supply to people in debt. Essentially, the use of electricity was dependent on those who could afford to pay for supply with prepaid cards or keys. Debtors had to be careful how they used the electricity they could afford, oftentimes having to go without. This behavior pattern of having to go without and being unable to use electricity for essential day-to-day living was known as self-disconnection. Groups such as the disabled or rural residents were especially vulnerable to self-disconnection. The ECCCG commissioned the help of Sheffield Business School to utilize the Delphi technique to determine and evaluate a range of possible solutions to the problem of electricity self-disconnection. Sheffield Business School chose 3 groups to act as experts, including the Great Britain electricity suppliers, locally based consumer groups, and national groups with particular expertise in metering equipment. The questionnaire was distributed and involved 2 rounds. The findings of the Delphi technique included consensus among experts in several areas: Such areas included laying the responsibility on the electrical companies to fully explain to customers where their charges come from. It also included always having an employee on hand that has skill in dealing with low-income customers, as well as the debt recovery period, which should be based on a person's ability to pay rather than the conventional practice. The Delphi technique has several advantages. Because the collection of data from expert input is done remotely, the experts can remain anonymous, which puts the focus not on them, but on the ideas that they provide. This focus on ideas allows the project team to identify priorities or risks that may have greater impact to the project. The Delphi technique also allows for experts to continuously provide feedback and modify their input as the data collection process progresses. The ability for the tool to collect feedback from a large, diverse group of individuals is another advantage to using Delphi technique. While Delphi technique has several advantages, some aspects of the tool may be a hindrance to a project. The tool is very time-consuming to employ. From the creation of the questionnaire to the multiple feedback collection rounds, Delphi technique takes time to complete. Because the process is long, the expert's enthusiasm and willingness to respond to the questionnaire may decline over time. Another disadvantage to using the tool is the self-reporting done by the experts. The personal experiences and biases of participants could cloud or influence their feedback. The tool can be made more difficult to utilize if questionnaire statements aren't well defined, because that may cause the expert feedback to have little value. Lastly, if there are a large number of participants, data analysis of all of the feedback could become immensely complex, taking time to analyze, which could delay the risk identification process. Delphi technique is an information gathering tool used during the risk identification process. Fortunately for project teams, it's not the only information gathering technique. Alternative techniques include brainstorming, interviewing, and root cause analysis. The goal of brainstorming includes obtaining a comprehensive list of project risks. Categories of risk can be used as a framework in which risks are categorized by type and definitions can be refined. Brainstorming involves soliciting feedback from the project team and experts under the leadership of a facilitator. This process is done in a group setting, which could negatively affect the generation of ideas because participants cannot anonymously contribute. Interviewing is another information gathering technique. Interviewing involves sitting down with experienced project participants, stakeholders, and subject matter experts to identify risks. This process is time-consuming because coordinating schedules can be difficult. The last information gathering alternative method is root cause analysis. Root cause analysis is a specific tool that can be used to identify a problem and discover the underlying causes that lead to the problem. The benefit of root cause analysis is that preventative actions for individual risks can be developed. While the Delphi technique may be time-consuming and data analysis can be difficult, it is a sound and structured practice that can draw concise insights from experts who may not otherwise participate in risk identification. The tool allows the facilitator to have the opportunity to review several perspectives and eventually generate a middle-of-the-road or best answer. The technique is useful in multiple scenarios as long as the constraint of time is considered. The references I used to complete my investigation of the Delphi technique and to create this presentation are shown here. Please don't hesitate to message me if there are any questions. I appreciate your time and your attention to my presentation on Delphi technique. Thank you.